in Bava Metzia.
Mm-hmm.
A price for the produce may not be fixed until the market price is known. When the market price is known, a price may be fixed, and although this one does not have, someone else does have. If he was the first of the reapers, he may fix a price with him on the slack of grain, or on the vat of grapes, or on the vat of olives, or on the clay balls of a potter, or on lime after it has been sunk into the kiln. He may fix a price on manure all the days of the year. And Yoshi says a price may not be fixed on manure unless they have manure in the dung heap, and the common, however, permit it. He may fix a price with him at the best rate. Rabbi Yehuda says, although he did not stipulate with him at the best rate, he may say, give me at such a price, or give me my money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Chet. A person may lend his sharecroppers wheat for sowing, but not for eating. Where Rabbi Gamil would lend his sharecroppers wheat for sowing, and if he lent them at a high price, then it became cheap, or if he lent them at a cheap price and it became expensive, he would take them at the cheap price, not because the law is so, but because he wished to be stringent with himself. A person may not say to another, lend me a core of wheat and I will pay you at threshing time, but he may say, lend me until my son comes or until I find the key. Hillel, however, prohibits it, and so Hillel used to say, a woman may not lend another a loaf until she assesses its price. Perhaps wheat will become expensive, and if they will come to a transgression of interest. Okay.
Okay. Right. So the difference between the halacha here is not like Hillel, it's like the Tanakama. Um, the difference being the important thing being that the Tanakama doesn't view a short-term loan as being something that could possibly come to interest. But but Hillel says it has to be converted into a monetary value, so that if the neighbor goes and says, "Can I borrow a cup of sugar?" and they say, "Ad kedei kach," that Hillel would say that you've got to say, "Okay, this cup of sugar is worth 1 shekel." Okay, so then it's 1 shekel, rather than saying, "I'll give you back a cup of sugar because maybe the price of sugar will go up in the meantime." That's Hillel's concern. Okay. Um, Mishna Yud. Ada Omer Adam lechavero nakeshi mi v'nakeshi micha. So we're talking about trading of favors. Two farmers never living next door to each other. Both want to, weed their field, but it's nice to do it with company, and
Mm-hmm.
it goes faster if you've got two people doing it together. So he says, okay, I'll weed with you today, and you weed with me tomorrow. 100% legit. No problem with that. But or ador imi ador imach, or hoe the place with me, and I'll hoe with you tomorrow. Also, this is also perfectly legit. But what can't you do? Lo yamar lo nakeshi mi ador imach. Weed with me today, and tomorrow I'll come and hoe with you, because they're different levels of work. Or you can't even do it the other way around, Ador Emiv and Akeshimach, because it's not clear which of the work is worth more, because one of them is more difficult, and each one has aspects that are more difficult than the other. So it's not 100% clear which is better, and therefore it could be viewed as a kind of a ribis, that if the one guy is doing the easy work with him today, then tomorrow he's going to repay him with harder work.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay.
that is a possible kind of ribis. Kol Yemei Garid Echad, Kol Yemei Revia Achas. Okay, so the dry season and the wet season, basically. So if somebody says, "I'll weed with you today, you weed with me next week," it's okay as long as we're always talking about the dry season, or always
Right.
talking about the wet season. But lo yamar lo charoshimi b'garid v'ani achroshimach b'rivia, that I'll weed with me now or plow with me now in the dry season, and I'll plow with you later in the wet season, because the wet season makes it a lot more difficult. Rabban Gamliel Omer, yesh ribis mukdemes v'yesh ribis meucheres. So Rabban Gamliel comes to point out that there are two different ways that a person can give a kind of a ribis. There's a prepaid ribis and a postpaid ribis. Ketzad. Nasan einav lilvos himenu. So he sees a guy who's known to be able to have a loan fund, but he knows that there are a lot of competitors for getting loans, and he wants to make sure that he secures a loan. Okay, vayam shalech lo, and he sends him a gift before he comes. He sends him a nice little basket of fruit and bottle of wine. and says, "Bishvil shetalbeni." This is, yeah. I hope you'll give me a loan when I come tomorrow. Okay, that's called prepaid ribis. Okay, zoi ribis mukdemis. Lava himenu vehechzir lo es me'asav. Or alternatively, yeah, the other way is where he takes the loan and pays him back. Okay, and he's so grateful to the guy for having given him the loan, and so he sends him a gift. Just wanted to say thank you so much for giving me that money. He has a basket of fruit and a bottle of wine, because I really appreciate it. And your money was just sitting at me doing nothing, and here you go. Here's this for you. Zohim ribis milcheres. So this is a delayed ribis. Rabbi Shimon Omer yesh ribis devarim is also, just without even giving him an actual gift. There's verbal ribis which a person could give. So let's say these two guys have absolutely had no connection before, and they had, there was no, he wouldn't just give information like this to just anyone. Lo yomar lo da ki ba ish ploni mimakom ploni. Let's say there's a certain businessman coming to town he happens to know because it's his brother or something like that, and he says, "Listen, I know that you're interested in this kind of deal. My brother's coming to town in a week, and after he's already paid back the loan, so he's doing him a favor just because he lent him the money. So that also says Rabbi Shimon, that's also considered a kind of a ribis. Okay,
That's also, I think that happens a lot in business. At the end of the year, at least in Kutzla arts, when the Christmas season comes, people start giving bottles of wine and baskets of different things.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your today. And for all purchases all year long. I appreciate your business and all this kind of stuff.
That's
really,
that's legit. That's legitimate. Because that's because you're doing business with customers. They're paying you for a service. There's no loaning going on over here. It's just that you're my customer. I appreciate you giving me your service, and here's a bottle of wine to say thank you for.
Well, that's okay then.
That's fine. That's fine. It's only when you borrowed money from him and now you want to say thank you for having lent me the money, because money you're not allowed to give interest on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yod Aleph, Elu Ovrin Belotase. So let's say somebody agrees to a loan that involves interest, and there are four parties involved who are all over on a lotase. Okay, Hamalve v'halove, both the lender and the borrower are over on interest, because they're two separate isurim. One is on the malve to lend money at interest. Two is on the love to pay the interest. He's not allowed to give interest on it. The arev and the guarantor va'edim. The guarantor and the edim, they're on a separate issue. They've got lifnei iver lositen mechshol. Because they're now enabling this loan at interest to take place. And just make sure, yeah. Okay, but Chachamim afa sofer, and the Chachamim say also the sofer, the guy who's writing the star chov.
Sorry.
No worries. Ovrim mishum lo siten or mishum. Okay. So the one issue is lositain, which is lositain is kasvicha lositain lo beneshech v'marbis lositain ochlecha. So that's the one on the malve, and there's also bal tikach me'ito, and the issur for the love is al tikach me'ito. Oh, so that's also for the love, the malve. Mishum lo siye lo kenoshe, and also you should not be like a noshe is an oppressor. Hmm?
Okay,
What is your translation? Like a creditor? Okay. Umishum lo sisimon alav neshech, and also lo sisimon alav neshech. So far we've got four psukim that are all talking about not taking interest. Umishum lifnei ivel lo sitein michshol. The Eresam Elehecha Ani Hashem. Okay, so also the lifnei iver is referring to all of the Adim and to the and the software and the guarantor. And there's there's actually another pasuk that's left out over here, which is "Ulachicha lo tashich." Your brother, you may not tashich. Tashich is a causative, all right. Le Like lahachnis is to cause something to go in. Like lahachnis mashul, if you're putting something into something else, it's lahachnis. So lahashich is you're causing your brother to take interest. So that's on the love, the borrower. He's causing his brother to take interest. So he's got an issue there that he's enabling his brother to take interest.
Okay.
Okay. Got to sneeze. No. No, but it's not going. Okay, it's not happening. Okay. Perek Vav. All right, back into relationships between employers and employees. We're in Perek Vav, Mishna Aleph. Hasocher is.
Wait, you're doing, where are you? Bava Kala?
I'm just moving. It's just no, Bava Metzia. We've just done 2 Mishnahs so far.
Okay,
one more.
I thought we had one more to go. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Hasocher is ha'omanim. So if somebody hires workers, v'hit'u zeh and they deceive each other. So here, what's the case is where the balabais finds a foreman and says, "Listen, I've got a certain job to do, and I'm prepared to pay up to 4 dinners a day per worker. Can you organize the workers, and I'll pay you as the foreman to look after them." And the foreman goes out and finds workers and says, "Listen, there's a guy that's offering three dinners a day." And they say, "Yeah, okay, sounds good." So basically he's kind of subcontracted it out, and he's taking a profit off them. And
Right.
and now they come to work, and the balabais lets it slip that he's paying for 4 dinners a day, and now they say, "Excuse me, I thought you were paying 3 dinners a day." And the foreman says, "Listen, you're working for me. I'm paying you 3 dinners a day." So ein lahem ze al ze ela taromes. So the workers have a right to be angry at the foreman because he tricked them. However, in Beis Din, nothing's going to stand because they agreed to work for 3 dinners a day, and that's all he has to pay them. So it's a legitimate reason to be angry with the guy, but it's not enough to claim the money back from him. Sachar es hachamar ve'es hakadar lavi pir yafarin chalin lekal lemes. So he hires a chamar, actually ve'es hakarar. This kadar over here, which literally is a potter, doesn't actually make sense in the context, and most mafarshim say that kadar should be karar, which is a coach driver.
They call donkey driving.
Okay, pirifarin v'chalilim lekala olames. So to bring adornments for a kala on her wedding day, or flutes for the funeral, because what's a funeral without a flute? Upolin laha'alos pishtano mina mishra, or he hires workers to take his flax out from the water where it's soaking. Or any other case of something that's going to be lost if it's not done in time. Okay, so they all agreed to the certain rate at which it was going to be done. So now they've got him over a barrel. They said, "You know what? We said we were going to work for 4 dinars a day. Price just went up to 6 dinars a day." He says, "But, well, this is what we agreed." And they say, "Not our problem." And now the balabais goes running around trying to find other workers who'll do the work, and he can't find anyone. Makom she'ein adam socher alehem or matan. So what he can do is he can hire somebody else. So let's say he finds somebody else who'll do it for 5 dinners a day. He says, "Okay, I'll pay you 5 dinners a day." And even if the other guys had started and they walked out on the job, so he can pay the 5 dinners a day out of what he owes the first guys. So he still takes a bit of a loss, or he or even but the guys who changed what they said, they're gonna lose out. Or alternatively, what he can even do, and he has a big chiddush, is he can say to the guys and say, "I can't find anyone else. Do 6 dinners a day, fine." So they come and they do the work, and he says, "Here you go. Here are the 4 dinners that I promised you." Because they changed the terms. They deceived him, so he
Right.
actually is allowed to deceive them and say, "Fine, I agree to your terms." And then when they come back to him and say, "No, we are at the original terms," and if they take him to Beis Din, they'll say, "Here's what we agreed. They changed their minds on me. I deceived them, yeah, but that's it's fair is fair."
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, Chazaras.
Need 2 seconds to fill this with water. I'm having a blood test today.
Sure.
Here we go.
Gimel
Dalet
Yud.
Aleph.
No,
Uh,
Gimel. Hang on. Did you say Dalet Aleph? Is it Dalet? Did I not move my? Let me make sure. What?
Am I wrong?
I thought that's it's Gimel Yud.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, sorry, you got ahead of the game there.
Gimel Yud. Okay. Gimel Dalet Gimel Hey. Zion. Yes. Okay. Gimel Yud. With another, and he tied it up and slung it behind him and gave it over to his minor or son or daughter and locked the door before them inadequately, he is liable since he did not watch as Shomrim do, but he watched as Shomrim do. But if he watches Shomrim do, he is exempt. If one deposited money with a money changer and it is tied up, he may not use it. Therefore, it is lost, he is not responsible for it. If it is untied, he may use it, and therefore, if it is lost, he is responsible for it. For the householder, however, whether it is tied or untied, he may not use it. Therefore, if it is lost, he is not responsible for it. A storekeeper is like a householder. These are the words of Reb Meir, and Rabbi Huda says a storekeeper is like a money changer. If one uses a deposit for his own purposes, Bet Shammai says he must suffer whether it loses value or it gains. Reb Hill says at the time of its being taken out, Rabbi Akiva says at the time of the claim. If one intends to make a deposit for his own use, Beit Shammai says he is liable. Beit Hillel says he is not liable until he uses it for his own purposes, as it is said, if he has not put forth his hand on the other's goods. How? If he tilted the task and took a quarter of a log from it and it broke, he pays only for the quarter of a log. If he lifted it up and took a quarter of a log from it and it broke, he must pay its entire value.
Right. Okay. Now, Bava Kama Gimel Ches.
If 2 temples wounded one another, their owners pay half the excess. If both are muadim, they pay the full excess. If one is tam and the other muad, that which the muad injured, that the muad injured the tam, the owner pays the full excess. That which the tam injured the muad, his owner pays only half the excess. Likewise, if 2 men wounded one another, they pay the full excess. If a man injured a muad animal and the muad injured the man, he pays the full excess. If a man injured a tam and the tam injured the man, that which the man injured the tam, he pays the full excess. That which the tam injured the man, its owner pays half the excess. Rabbi Akiva says also if a tam wounded a man, its owner pays the full excess. If a bull worth a mana gores a bull worth 200 and the carcass is worth nothing, he takes the bull. But if a bull worth 200 gores a bull worth 200 and the carcass is worth nothing, Reb Meir says, Reb Meir, regarding this it is said, they shall sell the live bull and divide the money of it. Said Reb Yehuda, to him, indeed, so is the halacha. You have fulfilled, they shall sell the live bull and divide the money of it, but you have not fulfilled and also divide the dead one. Which one is that? That is a bull worth 200 that gored a bull worth 200 and the carcass is worth 50 zuz. In which case, this one takes half the live one and the half the dead one, and that one takes half the live one and half the dead one. Okay. That's it? No.
One more.
Sometimes one is liable for the deed of his bull and exempt for his own deed. Sometimes he is exempt for the deed of his bull and liable for his own deed. If a bull embarrassed someone, he is exempt. If he embarrassed someone, he is liable. If his bull blinded his slave's eye or knocked out his tooth, he is exempt. But if he blinded the slave's eye and knocked out his tooth, he is liable. If the bull wounded his father or his mother, he is liable. But if he wounded his father or mother, he is exempt. If his bull ignited a stack of grain on Shabbos, he is liable. But if he ignited the stack of grain on Shabbos, he's exempt because he is liable for his life.
Okay.
Okay.
Nadarim.
Okay. Tests. But the netter of a widower or a divorcee shall stand against her. How? This if she said, I will be a Nazarite after 30 days, even if she marries within the 30 days, he cannot revoke it. If she vowed but under her husband's authority, he may revoke it. How? If he said, I will be a Nazarite after 30 days, even if she is widowed or divorced within the 30 days, it is revoked. If she vowed on the same day and was divorced on the same day, and he took her back on the same day, he cannot revoke it. And this is the general rule. If any woman had entered into her own authority for even 1 hour, he cannot revoke her netter. There are 9 Naros whose Nadarim stand: a Bulgaris who is an orphan, a Nara who is a Bulgaris and is an orphan, a Nahara who has not become a Bulgaris and is an orphan, a Bulgaris whose father died, a Nahara who became Bulgaris and her father died, a Nara who has not yet become a Bulgaris and her father died, a Nahara whose father died and after her father's death she became a Bulgaris, a Bulgaris whose father is living, and a Nahara who became a Bulgaris and whose father is living. Rabbi Yehuda says also, if one married off his minor daughter and she became widowed or divorced and returned to him, she is still a Nara.
Okay.
If a woman said, one more, if a woman said, Kohen on my benefit regarding my father or your father, if I work for your benefit, or Kohen on my benefit to you, if I work for the benefit of father or your father, this he can revoke.
Okay, so tomorrow we finish off Nadarim and start Nazir.
I'm sorry, start
Nazir.
Nazir.
Nazir. Okay, Psachim.
Psachim. Okay. Psachim, Zion Yud Gimel. If 2 groups are eating in the same house, one group may turn in one direction and eat, and the other group may turn in another direction and eat, with the kettle between them. When the waiter stands up to mix the wine, he must close his mouth and turn his face until it gets back to his own group. Then he eats. The bride may turn away her face and eat. A woman during the time she resides in her husband's house, if her husband slaughtered a Pesach on her behalf and her father slaughtered a Pesach on her behalf, she eats from the Pesach of her husband. If she went to spend the first festival in her father's house, if her father slaughtered her on her behalf and her husband slaughtered on her behalf, she may eat in whichever place she desires. And an orphan for whom guardians is slaughtered may eat in whichever place he desires. A slave belonging to 2 partners may not eat from either of them. One who is half slave and half free may not eat from his masters. And one says to his slaves, go out and slaughter the Pesach offering for me. The Pesach offering, slaughter the Pesach offering for me. If he slaughtered a kid, he may eat of it. If he slaughtered a lamb, he may eat of it. If he slaughtered both a kid and a lamb, he must eat of the first. He forgot what his master told him. What should he do? Let him slaughter a lamb and a kid and say, if my master told me to slaughter a kid, let the kid be his and the lamb be mine. If my master told me to slaughter a lamb, let the lamb be his and the kid mine. If his master forgot what he had told him, both go forth into the place of burning, and they are exempt from participating in the second Pesach.
Okay.
If
that's it.
Okay, we have sure. Regarding a sack that is filled with produce, which one placed on the riverbank or over the opening of a cistern or on the steps of a cave, and the produce absorbed the water, all the produce that absorbed water is included in the law of if water is placed. Rabbi Yehuda says all the produce that faces the water is included in the law of the water is placed, and all the produce that does not face the water is not included in the law of water is placed. Regarding a barrel that is full of produce, and it was placed into liquid, or a barrel full of liquid and was placed into produce, and the produce absorbed liquid, all the produce that absorbed liquid is included in the law of water in place. And they said this with regard to those liquids, with regard to water, wine, and vinegar, but with regard to all the other liquids, the produce is tahor. Reb Nechemia rules legumes tahor, for legumes do not absorb. If one removes hot bread from an onion and places it
from an oven,
places it on the mouth of what I say. Ram moves hot bread from an oven and places it on the mouth of a barrel of wine. Reb Meir rules the bread tameh. Rabbi Yehuda rules the tahor. Rabbi Yossi rules the bread tahor in case of wheat bread, but rules the bread tameh in the case of barley bread because barley absorbs.
Okay,
Regarding one of
that's
those sprinkles,
that's 3.
Reading
Okay.
so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
Yeah, they're all short
it's good.
Mishnayos. And Arachin.
I just got the software almost got my trackpad wet. Okay. Oh, knew that would happen. Okay, Gimel. There is to the law of the Muad bull that killed the slave an element of leniency, as well as an element of stringency. How so? Whether it killed the handsomest slave or the ugliest slave, he gives 30 selim. If he killed a free man, he gives his worth. If he grounded wounded either this one or that one, he pays a full damage. If these are to the laws of the violator and the seducer elements of leniency as well as the elements of stringency. How so? Whether he violated or seduced the daughter of the most prominent family of Kohanim or the humblest family of Israel, he gives 50 selim. But as for the payments for disgrace and abasement, he depends upon the status of the one who is disgraced and the one who was disgraced. There is to the law of the defamer an element of leniency as well as an element of stringency. How so? Whether he defamed the daughter of the most prominent family of Kohanim or of the some humblest family in Israel, he gives 100 selim, and it emerges that the one who speaks with his mouth is treated more severely than the one who commits a deed. For so we find that the decree was sealed against our forefathers in the desert only because of evil speech, as it is stated, and they tested me these 10 times and did not hearken to my voice.
Right. So there's what the motzi, they're comparing the motzi shemer to the rapist, and the rapist only pays 50 shekels, but the motzi shemer pays 100. So okay, we are done, and I'm off.
Tomorrow we're